everybody. Welcome to Revival Town Podcast. I'm Chuck Tate. That's Andy King.
Hey, mate. You all right?
I am all right. I'm good, mate. How you doing?
Good, but I tell you what's crazy. We are like 8 weeks or more without serious rain. We had one rainstorm, not even a storm, just rain. But like everywhere is burning up in Peoria.
We're in a drought. We need some rain.
Oh, man.
You know? So, yeah, it's kind of overcast at the moment, but
Yeah.
we're not supposed to get any rain.
I know.
So remember the band Pray for Rain?
Oh, yeah, they've just reunited.
Well, it's about maybe that's a sign. That is a sign.
Oh, I love them. I remember seeing them at Cornerstone.
Yeah.
They were
right.
the closest sound to like the Beatles. They definitely had a Beatles sound.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing them opening just before Delirious ended the night. So it was a good night.
Man.
It was a good night.
That was epic.
It was Pray for Rain, then Toby Mac, then Delirious ending the night. Woo! That was a good night.
Man, I saw Pray for Rain when they opened up for Thunderstorm. Okay.
By the way, I have had so many people contacting me about frog juice. if you weren't listening to last week's podcast, you need to go back. Obviously, Chuck has a bit of hearing problems.
What?
And I was talking about produce. And he thought I said frog juice.
Frog juice. Well, you know what? So my wife got a big kick out of it as well. And remember Burger Barge? It just closed down. The main one did. But
so it's a fast food place, right?
Yep, it's a
restaurant.
Well, it's not fast food. It's a restaurant.
Yeah.
That has multiple locations, but their most famous one was on the Peoria Riverfront.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a dive, but really good burgers. Known for their burgers.
Yeah.
But they had something called frog spit, and Annette thought it was frog juice. So she was like, remember frog juice? We used to get frog juice at Burger Barge.
What is
Ashton
frog?
used to get it.
But what
and it's
is
like,
that?
no, it's frog spit. Do you remember do you know what a push-up is?
Like exercise push-up?
No, like this is mate and Tate. No, it's like a dreamsicle. It's a summer treat.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It's called a push-up, and you push up the.
Yeah.
It's almost like orange sherbet.
Yeah.
It's just like that, but it was green, and it was called frog spit.
Oh,
Not frog juice, frog spit. But she thought it was frog juice, and then later on, she's like, never mind, it's frog spit. I'm like, well, we can talk about frog spit.
Oh, man. Sorry to get an argument going on at the home.
Right, well, speaking of which,
Yeah.
so today, 35 years ago today, I had my first date with Annette. I was 17, she was 15. And
They'd lock you up for
we
that
went. So we went goofy golfing. We went to this putt, mini golf, goofy golf, well, whatever you call it, in Pekin. And we brought some kid from the youth group with us. And to this day, I mean, I don't know, Thad, if you're listening, I love you, bro. But I don't know why, how that happened. But if it was, I kind of think it was her mom didn't want her to go alone with me.
I can see why.
I know. I had a mullet back then.
Oh.
Oh, wait, no, I didn't. No, not for our first date, I didn't. I had cut my hair for my. Anyway, I don't know. So it doesn't matter. But we went putt-putting.
Yeah.
But check this out. So I returned there 8 years later, put a ring in the 17th hole, and proposed there.
Oh, look at you. Hey? Take note, kids. Take note.
Well, speaking of notes, you need to take some notes on today's podcast. What an opportunity to hear some great stuff.
Oh, man. It was a great conversation, especially on marriage, and not just for people who have got a bad marriage. This is also people who've got a good marriage who want to strengthen it even more. And
absolutely.
And also people who may be getting married during this summer season.
Right. Yep. You're preparing. I'm doing a wedding in a couple weeks. So I think I'm going to gift this to them. And we're not going to tell you what this is, you're going to have to listen. But it's great stuff from a friend of mine, Jim KOCHENBURGER, and he is a licensed counselor and therapist, and he has just put together a great resource.
Yeah.
And we're going to make it available for you today, and we're going to give it away to 5 people.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good value.
Yeah, so listen to the show. Later on in it, Chuck will tell you how you can get that. So we just want you to sit back now and just relax and enjoy this conversation with Jim.
This podcast is part of the Edify Podcast Network. Edify is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edify app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edify.app. That's EDIFI.app.
All right, everyone, it's time for another conversation on Revival Town Podcast. Our guest today, Jim KOCHENBURGER, is a commercially published author of relationship, marriage, and parenting resources. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist whose passion is to help people build healthy, fulfilling, and loving relationships in all ages and stages of life. Jim has helped high-conflict couples on the edge of divorce to reconnect and become caring communicators, helped relieve PTSD and trauma at the root of current conflict and disconnection in relationships, help those who feel stuck in life to find their way forward, help the anxious and depressed to find relief and renewed hope, help parents and teens caught in adversarial cycles to find harmony, and help those caught up in addiction compulsion to find freedom. We are excited to talk to him right now. Jim, welcome to Revival Town.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Man, well, it's so cool to see you. And there is me and you have a background story.
Yep.
And we have a mutual friend in Angel McGee. Her and her husband Joe have been on the podcast, and I used to work for Angel, and she is the one who introduced you to me because you're kind of part of my 41 Will Come story. When I was in the process of working on my proposal, I mean, for years, I kind of just talked about it, preached about it. But when I finally got serious and began working toward it, you're a published author, and Angel connected with you. And I still remember calling you. I was on my way to like vacation or something, and I was driving and talking to you, and you were just sharing wisdom with me. And fast forward today, now I'm a published author working on my second book. And it's just really cool, and it's an honor to have you on today, man. So thanks for taking time.
Man, hey, I just appreciate the invite. I love what you all are doing. I admire you both and the work you're doing for God. And it's great to be here and talk about these kinds of things. And I do remember that meeting, and it was great. And I see a lot of manuscripts, and have seen a lot of manuscripts in my life, in my time in the publishing world. And when I saw yours, it was super strong. And I just really felt like you had some, great opportunities before you. I knew the book would be really special. And I love your story about how that came together, sitting at a conference, meeting an agent there, and they actually said, let's make a deal.
Yeah.
So it's a really valuable book. And so I was honored to be a small part of that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jim. Well, why don't you begin today by sharing your story and letting our audience know who is Jim KOCHENBURGER. We know you're a published author and you're a therapist, and I can't wait to talk about the Love Seat experience as well. But let's back up and why don't you just share your story?
Absolutely. Wow, the biggest thing about me is I'm beloved by God, and that is an awesome identity to have. And that began, actually, I was a 1 or 2 times a year churchgoer in a Lutheran church as a child. But I learned the Lord's Prayer on a band bus in high school.
Wow.
Because we would say it before trips. And then some of those same people actually really spoke into my life, and wasn't quite ready then, but by 20, I I was ready to just commit my life to the Lord. And it was just after a time where it was the darkest time in my life, and really the only time that I'd actually considered suicide. I was just really consumed in depression and anxiety. So God just pulled me up out of that dark pit, and really it was, everything looked different. And it's been a journey, but for a while it took a bit for me to actually feel the truth of God loves me. But that was a beautiful day as that came into focus for me, because it got through all the layers of stuff like you're not really lovable, you're not really valuable. And so it really, really transformed my life at 20. And then that changed my trajectory. And a year or two later, went to Bible school to go into ministry, and then into youth ministry. So that's a little, just an overview of the story.
Right. So then what kind of sucked you into the whole publishing world? And then also, when did you kind of transition to becoming a licensed counselor and therapist?
Yeah. Actually started my schooling as a therapist in the 80s. And so this is me kind of coming home to that. I think that on my journey, I needed a few more things in place to really position me to be helpful to people. And so what happened was I used to make family devotions. I was a youth pastor, and I used to make family devotions for the parents to use with kids. They would get 3 a week. I was so optimistic. And and it's based on whatever I was speaking on that week. And it's really, really interesting, because later on I would develop cross-training materials for Charisma Life, and then work with group on something called Faith Weaver. And both of those curriculums for youth ministry had a parent-teen devotional component.
Wow.
So it was really cool. But the book came out of that. They said, "Hey, you got a book idea? Come on up." And I said, "I don't know. I've got this wad of devotions. I don't know if anybody's really used them." I ask them and they say, "Well, yeah, we're about to, but I feel pretty good about it. 3 parts, get ready, get set, go. And here it is." And it's like, kind of a shared thing of ideas, so that, the parents don't feel like they have to be heavy on, like teaching, but it's like, we're just talking and having great conversations. So that became the book that I showed you earlier, but
let's hold it up. Yeah. Right.
1989. Wow. You can still get it for 1 cent on Amazon and $3.99 shipping.
I love it. But think about all the people that it impacted. How cool is that? I mean, so many youth pastors and teenagers and even parents. So what a gift. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's been a big joy. 2012, I had a man from the Philippines walk up with that book. And,
wow.
That's like almost 20 years after it came out. And he had all the notes in there. He's coming to a writers conference that I was speaking at, and it was full of his notes. And it was just so touching to see that. He wanted me to sign the book. And
wow.
I thought that was great.
That is special. Well, I know. I mean, the book did really well, I believe, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And again, it was their first venture, that publisher, into, somebody from the outside actually contributing ideas to the book. So yeah, it was fun.
Man, well, obviously you've always had to have the gift to write, and you moved into full-time counseling, where you have, helped so many, not just couples, but individuals, and probably of all ages, right? So is that something that you always kind of lean towards pursuing, or is this a call on your life, or both?
I absolutely love it. I've spoken in the big rooms, I've been in the small groups, but I always loved the times when I was one-on-one with a kid or a family, and just really, really helping them through the rough patches, and just trying to, just be that conduit of God's love and presence with them. Just holding space, bearing witness to what they're going through, and just really, really helping them through. So I've always loved that. And so it was really me coming home to something that had been birthed in me in the 80s. So I came back to it a little bit later in life. So I got my degree when I was already 50. So my master's degree in it. So that began the journey. But I'd done it informally, for decades, right? Counseling people and all that. So I'm just coming home to that. And I love it. Sitting in those spaces with people. Love hearing the stories. Love helping people map their way to how God is in the story, how the gospel is interwoven in their story. So it's an honor to sit with people in those spaces.
Right. Awesome. Were you going to say something, Andy? Sorry.
No, I'm good. I was just trying to think of a journey like this. Obviously, we all have different journeys, especially when it comes to faith. When it comes to then, like, okay, we are now as individuals, like, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this faith? Some become pastors like Chuck, some run nonprofits like myself, some like yourself involved with the whole book side, and where was that moment where you were like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, what a great moment. As I look back, I couldn't have mapped my life at age 19 when it was so dark. My expectations were I wouldn't live to 35 or that I'd just end up, a nothing, Yeah. And so that in that darkness where Jesus just lifted me out, right? And so it's just interesting to see the journey. As I look back, I'm like, wow, I could not have mapped this at 20. Everything. I've always loved what I've done, but it's always led to the next thing,
Right.
And so this was me coming back, and it was actually a real moment of clarity. My father passed away in 2012, and it was just one of these moments where, Jim, where is the Lord leading you in the last chapters of this amazing story that you've been able to live? And it's amazing. It may not be amazing to other people or whatever, but it was amazing to me.
Yeah.
How his love met me at every step and turn and guided me, from one thing to another. So that led me into this. And I've never loved doing anything more than what I'm doing right now. But fortunately, I've always loved what I've done, but never anything as much as this.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. And before we start talking about the Love Seat experience, when it comes to just general counseling and where we're at today in 2023, post-COVID world, have you noticed? I mean, I've seen statistics regarding depression and anxiety, and supposedly it's at an all-time high, and whether it's because of COVID, social media, both, all the above. Have you seen, personally experienced the elevation in?
Absolutely. Oh, my word. Yeah. During the pandemic in particular, anxiety moves through systems and moves through groups. Anxiety is felt not just by one person. It actually is felt by people around them. It's just amazing. We did a great job scaring the country. We just didn't count on how long it would take to unscare them.
Yeah.
And for some people, it just put them in a stress response and threat response that actually locked in as a trauma. So yeah, it's been really, really heavy. For a while there, I wasn't taking any new clients for over a year because I was just overbooked.
Wow.
And everybody I knew was, we're just all stepping in. And that is still residual. There are still people today that is what we're treating. When I talk about trauma, it's a lot of different things, and that could be a whole episode, but it's, the brain doesn't really distinguish between somebody got blown up next to me and I had a super critical dad that met me. The brain, there's an overwhelm, and the brain says, we're overwhelmed, and it stores it as a trauma, stores it in the body and in the brain in a way that, and in the part of the brain that doesn't tell time. It doesn't know what time it is or day it is. It's happening now. So it always keeps them in a, kind of a state of just unrest or hypervigilance or, and so anyway, a lot of people have, for the first time in their life, they were dealing with depression and anxiety. So it's been my honor to step into those places with folks and just help them find their way through it,
Man, I was yesterday at lunch with our former mayor here in Peoria, and he now works for one of the biggest hospitals here in town, really raising money for the sisters who run. It's a Catholic hospital, and he raises money so that the sisters can then go and do good in different areas of the city and things like that. And they are about to build in Peoria a new mental health facility. And we were talking about this, and he turned to me and he said, Andy, it will be years before we even tap how COVID hit people and is still hitting people and will hit people. and he was talking more about the mental health side of it and the anxiety, and not just the physical stuff that we saw, but also the mental stuff. With what you're involved in, can you open that up a little bit, especially with the COVID world?
Yeah, I'm not optimistic that they'll do research that'll actually really, really dig into that, because this issue became so politicized that for different interests of parties, that kind of, and I wish that there could be research on any number of things, but such research, real, true, objective research, is really being blocked by people who are just stuck in narratives and just, this is the storyline and we're not breaking from it. And this is one of the areas. It would be a fascinating study to see how collectively this impacted our culture and the long-term effects. I truly hope somebody is brave enough to step into that research and really, really look at that. Like I said, we did a great job scaring everybody. We just did not count on how long it would take to unscare them.
Yeah.
And it's not helping anybody that we have this hysterical culture where everybody is just at extreme. Everything's extreme. Everything's, very, very forceful, very, very emotionally violent, And so, there needs to be research. There needs to be some stepping in. I will say, in light of that, what a great opportunity for the church to step into the space of peace and calm and love and connection and lead the way. Make no mistake, that's the opportunity here.
Right. Well, speaking of a church lead the way, one of the conflicts for the church right now, and I don't know if it's affected you or it's affected your practice. It has affected me as a pastor. It's impacted me as a pastor and our staff. We're still navigating through the LGBTQ waters. We want to love people the way Jesus loves people. We want to preach the truth. We want to preach the truth with love. And now in some circles, the Bible is considered hate speech. There is now different states where somebody like you would not be able to help somebody that wants out of that world. Has that impacted you?
Sure it does. Sure it does in our field, right? This field, even because I'm licensed by the state, you know what I mean? That means I'm held to that level. And so there are certain things in that, right? And I won't get into the fine points of that, but there are discussions that should be had. And I think Simon Sinek holds a great piece of wisdom here. He quote, and I hope I get the quote right, but he says, you focus on the thing you hate and, what is it? Oh, you fight against something and you focus on the thing you hate. I'm against it. This needs, if I'm fighting for something, you focus on what you love.
Right.
In other words, it's like, what's this beautiful vision of connection and people loving each other and caring for each other? Can we just talk about that and this paint a picture for each other and invite people into that rather than telling everybody how bad you are and how, and judging them on, you must be this person to, so it's really, I love that quote. And I use that, it's like, when you're fighting for something, you focus on what you love. And you're fighting against something, you focus on what you hate. Yeah. And the hate is something that's very, very, it's a very consuming thing. I'm always thinking negative. I'm always thinking about people are out to get me and that some vast conspiracy is out there just keeping me from my best life or something. And it's like, whoa. Let's come together,
Yeah.
Yes. What are we fighting for that's beautiful and amazing, And let's all unite around that. Can we invite each other into that rather than yelling at each other?
Right. Right. I think the people are tired of that. In fact, my next book, the original title was going to be Shout Louder. And my agent was like, no more shouting. We're going to change that. no more. People are tired of the scream. And it had nothing to do with cancel culture or anything like that. But it was about Bartimaeus. But anyway, I think, we need to focus on what we're for, and we need to love people and help them navigate hard places and hard spaces. And one of the ways that you're doing that is through something called the Love Seat Experience. And I remember when we spoke about this on the phone, the first time, and this has been in development for a long time, and now it's been developed, and you're helping couples, and it's so unique. I have never heard anything like this, and I know that Andy is going to be intrigued by this as well. And what's really cool about this Love Seat experience is today, I told Andy this when we came in today, 35 years ago today, I went on my first date with my wife.
Wow.
How cool is that? That we're talking to
awesome.
you. Yeah. So what is the Love Seat experience?
The Love Seat experience is an invitation to a way of living and being in the world. We call it a course. It's not a course. It's more than that. I'm inviting people to abide in the love seat, in the world, chiefly toward their spouse. Yes. But this transcends that, Right. And, so that's what it's about. And congratulations, by the way, 35 years and all that. Karen and I are 38 years. We just celebrated our 38th anniversary.
Wow. Congratulations. Wow. Well, we dated on and off for 8 years before we got married. And that's another story. That's another story. But
that's awesome.
Well, but 38 years. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so the Love Seat experience basically started with just one idea, and it came to me, even just like 8 years ago. But these things are culminations. They don't just emerge. I think there was a lot of, stuff before that was coming together to make that moment happen. But I said, look, you're either in the love seat or the judge seat at any given time in your relationship. So recognize where you are. And if you're not love seating, then shift over. What can you do to shift over to the love seat and out of the judge seat? And the judge seat, if I was to boil it down, is it creates an atmosphere of fear in a relationship. And where the love seat creates an attitude of love, peace, and calm connection. Okay. And for example, in the judge seat, I'd be trying to change or improve my spouse, and perhaps withholding warmth until they conform to what I think they should be. And love seat is more understanding and acceptance. And as far as appeals for change and everything, it's more of an invitation or a request. Let me invite you into, a better experience, And so there's a lot to that. There's a lot of layers to that, but it became, there's 8 movements in it. I remember sending you the list, Chuck. I said the one page for you. And you said, Jim, I get a lot of stuff from people, but this is really, really, this is definitely unique. This is something really special. And I appreciated that encouragement. It was back in 2019. But really over the years, in that 8 years, that became 32 different skills, but there's more that just aren't in there. But I said, these are ones that if I was to boil it down, these are the ones, the essentials. Yeah. And big thing about Love Seat experience is that it's an experience. It's like, this is not a heavy informational thing. A lot of people know a lot of the right things to do. The problem is they just have difficulty doing it. So it's like, I want you to experience something different. I want you to feel something different between each other. And one of the things we start with is the vision that they cast. And it's like, I said, okay, you've told me the problems that you're having. This is in counseling and the conflicts and all this going wrong and this problem and all this. And said, okay, so let's just set aside the problem just for a moment. And let's just take a minute and dream. Yeah. Because we're on the problem. We're going to focus on, fighting against something. And then we're going to focus on what we hate, like all the time. And so if we can just create a vision that really, really captures both of our hearts that we can experience together, that's really, really nested in God's love, then now we have something to fight for, and that's a good guiding light for the rest of the process. So that's just one thing, but.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's pretty extensive. I mean, so,
could we go through it a little bit? The different movements what do you think, Chuck? I know, like you said, it's pretty extensive, but obviously you do a lot of podcasts and things like that. So you may have it to where you can, try and get them, not as extensive. Right. Yeah. But why don't you take us through that a little bit? Because I think it would really intrigue people just to really get their head around this love seat experience concept.
Yeah. Well, the ultimate intention of the love seat is to become the number one expert in the world on how to love your spouse. I am constantly learning Karen. She is a question that I keep asking myself, what moves her, and then something beautiful happens. Karen has actually evolved. I'm in Karen version 10.0 now. And there's still the girl that I met. We married before she was even 20, but she's also the woman who is there. And so I get to learn to love Karen in every version of her. And so that's the task. That's the invitation. That's what we get to do. Become the number one expert in the world on how to love our spouse. And so the movements are, fierce love, relentless love and longing, ravishing reverence, loving eyes that see and cherish, impassioned presence, steadfast devotion and care, audacious understanding, deep vulnerability and acceptance, extravagant encouragement, perpetual appreciation and praise, relentless kindness, unceasing thoughtfulness and consideration, radical servanthood, selfless serving and support, and the last one, reckless grace, limitless forgiveness and grace.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good stuff. And like I said, I mean, love seat, the judge seat. You're either in a place of loving or judging.
Yeah.
And to me, it's really fascinating. And I know you've had a number of couples that have gone through this, and I know you've seen great success. And God is using it. I mean, He's the one who placed the vision within you. So it's really cool for us to talk a few years ago, and now you're just going, man, full blown. Here we are. We're talking about this, and I'm just looking at this list, Andy, and I realize there are some things I need to work on.
I'm sure we could ask Annette. She'll tell us what you need to work on.
So
maybe I can get with him and Annette and put them in
there
the
you go.
Right.
Oh, here we go.
So you know what? I think what we need to do maybe for Valentine's Day is bring Jim back, bring our spouses on, and just have a free for all.
Oh, that might be the last show we do.
Might be the last. Welcome to the last episode of Revival Town Podcast.
That's great.
Because I'm looking at these things, and movement number 5: extravagant encouragement, frequent compliments of praise. When you're in the love seat, man, you're going to be intentional. If you're in the judge seat, the opposite side, then you criticize, discourage, deflate, and dishearten your spouse.
Yes.
You rarely show your spouse that he or she is your number one fan. And I'm like, I'm reading this, and I'm a pastor, and I'm a ministry, and I'm an author, and a podcaster, and all these things. And of course, I'm a husband and a dad. And if I don't get that right, then everything else I just mentioned is going to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And if my priority is everything else, then the relationship I have with my spouse and my kids is going to suffer. And I see right here, I am convicted because I am somebody who's I'm intense. But I'm a positive person, encouragement. I like there to be peace. I don't like tension, and I don't like when there's not peace, right? Yeah. But I've realized that, my wife was sick for 5 years, and we've talked about it many times on the podcast. So I won't go into that now, and she's so much better now. But I've realized I was so used to just leading on autopilot because she was in a hospital bed for 17 months. She could only walk with a walker. She was limited on where she could go for a long time. She had a lot of brain fog because of medicine and different things. So I just took charge of a lot of things. And now that she's back and she's no longer on that bed and she's no longer walks with a walker, and she has still a little bit of brain fog, but it's improved drastically. And now she's running errands and hanging out with my daughter, and they go to Planet Fitness together, and we've gone to Planet Fitness together. And God has done so much in her, but I'm still leading on autopilot, and I don't include. I need to slow down to remember. I need to almost learn how to include her again, because I was so accustomed to making decisions and just leading the home. And I've realized now, and she has pointed it out, and that is, I'm pretty encouraging around everybody. I want to build everybody up, but sometimes when she, like, if we're riding the car, I'll unload on her on everything that's bothering me. And next thing you know, it's criticism, discouragement. I deflate here. She could be in a great mood. She's excited to get in the car and with me, and I'm just like, I need someone to talk to about everything else that's unraveling. And I have to be better about that. That's something that I have to be improve on. So I think everybody can relate to these.
Exactly. And I would invite you not to judge seat yourself in that. I would like you to just love seat yourself, in that. And it's like, okay,
can you talk to Annette?
Yeah. How can I apply that to myself right now? Because this is one of the things that I bring up. It's like the last step, and it's the, the other foot drops. It's like if you're judge seating your spouse a lot, that's because you're judge seating yourself. And it just seeps out of you. You're looking at problems. You're looking to try and fix yourself. You're always focused on what could be better, what could be more, and you're in that turmoil. You're never resting in who he's made you to be, and taking time to really remind yourself, that this is an area for me to work on, and I'm going to do that. But let me also remind myself in that moment, let me love see myself and just remind myself of the things that I am doing that are really, really, that are solid and are really reflecting Christ in such a wonderful way. And so just love seat yourself. And it's beautiful because when you do that, now you've opened yourself up and God can drop in ideas. See, when we're afraid or we feel like we're failing, then there's shame, and it kind of keeps us from coming up with these beautiful ideas that will help us to do better in whatever area we've identified. I hope that's not confusing or anything.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. In fact, when I'm looking at these movements, and I'm looking at the movements and then the opposite side, the judge seat, out of these 8 movements, is there one that that jumps out, that stands out, I should say, more than the others? And when it comes to the judge seat, what is the I guess, what are a couple of the greatest challenges that you see marriages are facing today?
Yeah. Well, people are scared. They're, this is very, very vulnerable, In fact, we even have something in here like the gorilla suit, right? And there's angry stuff that's being shared, and say, look, underneath that anger, irritation, frustration, that's a secondary emotion. Often there's a primary emotion that's very vulnerable, and it's like pain or fear. Can you, if you're feeling that rise of irritation and frustration, and this is great for us with our kids too, if you're feeling that, can you just unzip your gorilla suit and kind of go underneath it and see what's the pain or fear? Can you put that in sentences to yourself so you understand it? Because then you're in a place where you can more vulnerably share what's going on, because anything out of anger, irritation, or that, it's just going to trigger a stress response, possibly threat response in your person, and you're not going to get a hearing. But if you can go underneath your own gorilla suit, because then you come out with your gorilla suit and you say it out of that, they'll come back at you with gorilla suit because you've triggered them. You come at them very hard, and so there's defense, right? So sometimes we have requests, but we make them in a forceful way, and it creates a fear environment. And so let's go underneath that to the other space. What's really eating at you? What's scaring you right now? That I'm not being heard, and this will never change. There's the pain and the fear. Okay. This moment is really, really concerning me because I'm feeling like I really want to be heard. And you do that so well, so much of the time. But when you didn't just now, I just sunk, Yeah. And then the fear came to me, just like, that this won't change. And remember, when you hear me, it means so much. Now I can say something like that. You never listened to me. Could be another way I can go every time. think where does that, and almost the Dumb and Dumber thing comes up. She said, oh, she said something about me not listening to her or something like that. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention,
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, listening is so important. And again, something that I am intentional when it comes to trying to improve in being a better listener, not just with my spouse, but anybody. Because for one, I'm hard of hearing, and for real, like I wear hearing aids. I'm also used to doing all the speaking. Right. If I'm doing a staff meeting, I'm leading the meeting. If on a Sunday, I'm usually preaching. I'm the one talking. If I'm counseling anybody, most of the time I'm doing the talking until we start asking questions. So listening, you have to be intentional. To be a good listener.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the kind of listening that we cultivate in something like presence. There's PDA. And that's what we call the activity, but basically it's cultivating presence, In other words, how do I practice this? I think my value, and a lot of men are really caught in this one. In fact, if there's the threat response of, what is it? Fight, flee, or freeze, you know what I mean? The other one is fix, So we think our value in this exchange here is that we bring the answer or a choice. And it's like, so often what's really being called for is presence. Can I sit with this person and be so with them that I can actually almost sense in my body what they're experiencing, bodily sensation and the emotion. So we talk about that in this. Interestingly, in Job, a lot of people get onto those guys, but do you know that they sat in 7 days in silence because they saw his suffering was great?
Wow.
And those were beautiful 7 days. I remember asking the Lord, what did they do in those 7 days? And he said, what do you think they did? I said, oh, what an awesome moment. Man. Wow. I think they tried to find a place where there wasn't a boil on him and they just placed their hand on the shoulder. I think they looked him in the eyes. I think that they brought him water and food if he could have it. And they just were there. They didn't leave. That was the biggest thing. They were there and they didn't leave. Wow. And so sometimes we want to leave. We want to leave into solution, or we want to pull away from this hard emotion, right? But, what the Lord is asking us to do is to lean in, And here's the beautiful thing we get to incarnate the love and presence of God for our partner. I won't get into the quote, but Christian Wyman in his book, My Bright Abyss, makes a point about this was the first time he really experienced love, and he realized that this human love with his wife was a conduit, into a love that opened into and onto God. In other words, he was actually got a better sense of God's love for him through the wife and through the way his wife loved him. That's the opportunity we have, is to help our partner to experience God's love and presence. Wow. And so when I say become the number one expert in the world on how to love our spouse, that's part of it. And we get to be that. So they have even more dimension on the love of God and the presence of God in that,
Wow. I've never really thought about the Job thing, just sitting there for 7 days.
Yeah.
And, they weren't on Instagram.
I skipped over that verse. It's like just this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, obviously we know there are times where our spouse just needs our presence. They don't need us to fix anything. They don't need us to say anything. There are times where they just need us to listen or to sit and to be present. So this is such really good stuff. And we'd love to have you tell everybody that how they can sign up for the Love Seat experience. But before we do that, would you be willing to pray? Because I'm sure, Andy, there's probably people listening right now. They're struggling in their marriage, and maybe they're on the verge of saying, "I'm done."
Yeah.
Maybe this is a divine appointment.
Yeah, if you could just lead us for just a moment, and also, this is great stuff as well, not just for people who are married, but people who are about to get married.
Right.
This is a great foundation of being able to really. And obviously, we're in the middle of summer, a lot of weddings going on, a lot of people getting married. This is a great resource for them as well. So if you could pray into that a little bit with regards
Absolutely.
to folks that are married, maybe having trouble, but also those who are stepping into that as well. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get to do a lot of premarital work. And when I bring this to them about the opportunity that they're about to embark on, this is always the one that just said, you have the opportunity to be loved better than you've ever been loved in your life because your person's going to be paying attention, you know?
Yeah.
And just catching one thing of what you said, as we listen to our wives like that, Chuck, their fear disappears as they can express it, contain it in words and sentences, and we can receive it and hold that, knowing that that's what they want us to do. The biggest doing is us just listening and being present. Their fears are relieved, and so we get to do that. So, yes, I'm happy to pray.
Yes, praise the Lord.
Yeah. Lord, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I want to thank you for what you're doing with us. I want to thank you for your lovely picture about you with your bride, the bride of Christ, and that's who we are. I thank you that that's what you gave us, and you give us this opportunity to experience your presence and your love in a way that is magical, supernatural. It's bigger than us. And we're entering into that with you. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for Chuck and Andy and their marriages. And I pray, Father, that you would continue to hold them and you would continue to be that love at the core of them, and that your love would flow through them like that river of living water to their spouses and to their children. And I pray that for everyone listening. And I love that we get to engage in this. We get to become that person for one another where they experience God with us and in a way kind of through us. And that presence of God, the image of God within us just meets in that wonderful, beautiful way, like no other relationship, as in the marriage between a man and a woman. And we want to thank you that your grace and peace oversees us all, and that your mercies are new every morning. I thank you that you hold us in the palm of your hand, close to your heart. And I thank you that you always pursue us in love. And may we pursue our spouses in love always. Yes. This is what we get to do. To love like you. Always pursuing. Always seeking to answer that question. And we have a lifetime to do that, and it won't be long enough. And I thank you, Lord, for that privilege. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Well, Jim, can you just tell us how people can connect with you? Obviously, the Love Seat experience, how they could really engage perhaps with you or with how you're doing all of this. Can you just let people know?
Yeah, well, everybody here can be part of the, can get in on the free mini course of Love Seat Experience. And the other course, it's not like expensive or anything. It's very, very reasonable. But the free mini course, definitely give them a taste of this and allow them to experience it. And they can see that. I actually have it hosted on Teachable. So it is hosted there as a course. Okay. But this is an experience. Make no mistake. This is not heavy information. I want you to feel something different right away, right from the get-go. It's low on information, high on experience and interaction. That's the beauty of the course. This is not a fill-in-the-blank mind, overwhelm. It's like, no, this is us right away experiencing each other. So they can go to the site. It's on teachable.com, and I can provide the website address to you. I guess so you can put it over. I don't remember it right off the top of my head. Sure. But they can start there and just get a slice through the Love Seat Experience mini course.
And connecting with you on socials, can people do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, Love Seat Life Counseling, Jim Kochenburger, LMFT. So that's my Facebook page. And I'm not really active on many of the other platforms, so Facebook is the chief way to find me there.
Great.
Right on. Well, I'd like to do something, Jim. You graciously gifted some Love Seat experiences to people within the church that I lead and pastor. And I would like to take 5 of those, and I'd like to offer them to our listeners. I know whether it's somebody who you're engaged and you're getting ready to get married, or perhaps you just want to strengthen your marriage. You don't have to have a broken marriage to go through this. This is for any couple. Obviously, it's going to help people on whatever level your marriage is at. But if you just need a breakthrough in your marriage, or this is something you just want to better your marriage, you want to become stronger, you want to be a better listener, or any of these things that we've discussed today, we want to give 5 away. So the way that we will do this is to have you, listener, email us, which is revivaltownpodcast@gmail.com. That's it, revivaltownpodcast@gmail.com, or go to our website and just let us know that you would like to benefit from the Love Seed experience, and then we will do that. We will get you connected. I just want to say thank you, Jim, for.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been an honor to be here. And to talk about this. I love talking about it. I love living in it. So,
well,
anyway,
it is the big 3. That is our last little bit of
the big 3
of the podcast. So, for those that are listening, people may be wondering, what is the big 3? We will ask our guests 3 random questions just to get to know you more than what you've already shared. So, you want me to start?
I want you to start, Andy.
Okay, all right. Okay, and I don't think we talked about this yet, so forgive us. Where are you living right now? Where are you at?
I'm in Central Florida.
Central Florida. Yeah. Okay, so are you a let's just go there. Are you a Disney or a Universal guy?
I'm more of a Disney guy, and that's
Yeah. Okay. I'm more Universal just because some of the movies.
With an asterisk.
Yeah. All right.
Well, a lot of times our big 3 are don't have a lot to do with the conversation, but mine does somewhat. Especially since 35 years ago, my wife and I went on our first date. What was your first date with Karen?
Oh my goodness. Our first date was, I think we saw Jaws 3D, and we went to Pizza Hut.
Wow.
That's right. I know how to. Oh, and she brought her best friend along. I had to pass muster with her best friend. Before that she weighed in very much, and so she had Pizza Hut with us, and then she left, and then we went and saw Jaws 3D, and so.
And the rest is history, right? So what's funny is I took a friend on my first date with my wife, and it was a kid in our youth group. And to this day, I still don't know why we brought him. I love him. And if he's listening, no offense. I just don't know why we brought you. Anyway, all right, Andy.
Okay, obviously Florida is like a vacation spot, right? I mean, a lot of people go to Florida for vacation.
I did.
Recently, right?
Recently, Daytona. We went to Daytona.
Yeah. So, where are you going on vacation outside of Florida? What's your favorite vacation spot outside of Florida?
Oh, yeah, it's an easy one, the mountains. I love the Smokies and the rest of the Blue Ridge. And I also, we lived out in Colorado for a while, so I love the Rocky Mountains too, but the Smokies have a very special place in my heart.
Great.
My wife and I, in fact, that was our 38th anniversary. We went up in the Asheville area, so it was a lot of hikes to see waterfalls and, staying in a cabin, and it was brilliant. It was great. Great fun.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. Man, well, this has been good, Jim. Thank you so much again for coming on the Revival Town podcast and sharing your story and your wisdom. And of course, I want to remind, if you want to experience the Love Seed experience, we're going to take 5. We're going to give 5 away, but we also want everybody to encourage. Go to Jim's website, get the information you need. Let's connect with him, and then we're going to definitely have to have you back again in the future, whether it's to talk about trauma or maybe around Valentine's Day. But it's been good.
Well, thank you so much, Jim, for coming on Revival Town today. And we know the folks that have been listening and watching have had a great time. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on. And by the way, I just wanted to say to both of you, I love what you're doing. I've looked at what you're doing there at the Dream Center, Andy. And Chuck, of course, I've known his ministry for a long time. And I know the places you said. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing to show God's love in a practical way to people and to really, express the gospel to them and to really, really personify. You're really becoming love in this world. And I think that's the great quest that we all have, right? Just those reflections of his love. And I love how you all are doing that. So
Thank you.
God bless you both.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Well, that was good, mate.
Hey, loved it.
You know, as he was talking, and then you talked about your first date, my mind went back to my first date.
That's right. Yeah, because that's how you ended up in America. She ordered you from the UK overseas.
So bad.
So Teresa was online and no kidding. No kidding.
Mate. She thought she was getting Fabio.
She thought you were getting a free case of frog juice.
Oh, but no, so our first, there's a long story. I won't go into it because I don't want to embarrass anyone. But Teresa, we said let's I asked her to go out on a date. So just like, and this is what reminded me, like Jim said, they went to Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
we went to Pizza Hut that now is not there in Washington. They knocked it down. But this is what was funny. We were there. It was our first night after a church night. We were at Pizza Hut. And as I'm sitting there, Mark, my friend Mark from England,
yes,
his mum and dad were over.
Okay.
And his dad is a bit of a jokester.
Over from the UK.
From the UK.
Yeah, yep.
And he had bought one of these wigs with a hat on, and the wig was like bright orange red hair and a tartan hat, so it looked like a Scottishman, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so as we were just chatting and stuff, I look out of the window and there's Keith with this hat on going, hey!
Oh, man. Were you nervous?
Oh, yeah, I was nervous. Yeah,
oh, my goodness.
But,
yeah.
It all worked out.
Yeah, it did.
So.
That's really cool.
But you know what's next?
Yes.
You love it every week.
Eight.
Because you never... Well, you've got a few right, few wrong in the past month or so, but for those listening for the first time, this is where we do... It's called Tate and His Mate. And to be honest with you, I'm getting to the point where we've done so many of these, I'm sure I'm repeating myself. But Chuck doesn't remember, so it's great. We're in the middle of summer, and I was just telling you about... What? What are you laughing at?
We're in the middle of summer. Summer.
And so... During summer, well, let me explain this first. This is going to be a long thing. Tate and His Mate. This is where my mate over the way there. By the way, if you're watching this, you can see it now. We are in the same room, and so that makes it even more interesting when we're doing Zoom calls. But,
right, because sometimes our guests, we have to always let them know, because on the Zoom screen, it looks like we're in different locations, but we're right across a table from each other.
Yeah, so there you go. Bit of inside info there, but just wanted to, let you guys know that Tate and His Mate is a spot where you are trying to guess what I'm talking about. Because
which is so challenging at times. because of that UK accent,
because of the
British accent,
not just the accent, but the words we use.
Right.
We use weird words.
Because
so
you use a slang word that is familiar in Britain, but not here.
Correct.
So whether it's a word or rhyming Cockney slang, or even sometimes you bake a treat, or your dad.
Oh
has baked
yeah, I need to do that again. I haven't done that. Have I?
Man.
So I'm going to give you one today. I could give you so many. Okay, I'm going to give you this one. It's the summer. It's the summer, right?
Yep, it's summer.
So I think I'm going to go and get a lolly. I'm going to go and get a lolly.
You're going to go get a lolly?
Lolly. Lolly.
Okay, like a sucker, like a lollipop. You're going to get a lolly. A lollipop is a sucker.
And not a sucker, but you're on the range.
A popsicle.
Yeah.
Hey.
There you go. So I'm going to get a lolly.
I'm going to go get a lolly.
And it'll be an ice lolly.
So, hey, if you know what? If you go to Burger Barge, you can get a frog spit lolly.
And be $2.
Hey there.
Oh, wow. That's good. Well, thank you for listening to Revival Town. yet again. We are amazed at the amount of people that are getting behind the podcast and are really following what we're doing. We try to bring variety of speakers and
guests.
Speakers, I don't know where that's from, but different people onto the podcast because we know a lot of people listen, and it's because of the variety of what we bring. So make sure
wide demographic, and like today's. Thank you, Jim. I want to thank our guests for coming on, and remember, if you want a copy of the Love Seat Experience, if you want to participate in that. I believe it's a value of like $150. We're giving away 5.
Wow. Okay.
5. Very generous
That's
of
good.
Jim. So email us and we will hook you up.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks again, mate, for doing this. I will talk to you. I don't know if I've got to talk to you during the week, but I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Let's go get a lolly.
Let's get a lolly.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Revival Town Podcast. Make sure you're following us on social media and remember to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, head on over to revivaltownpodcast.com.